Hello, everyone. This is Brianna Keilar. What surfaced overnight changes everything we thought we understood about control, access, and silence in the age of artificial intelligence. A core feature vanished for millions of users without warning. According to official records, sealed internal reviews, and testimony given under oath, this was not a glitch. It was a decision. What this reveals changes everything about who decides what tools the public can use, and why so many people are suddenly refusing to explain what happened. Before we go further, subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear is not being explained clearly anywhere else. And once you understand it, you'll see why so many statements stop mid-sentence. Let me start with the moment the change became impossible to ignore. On a Tuesday morning, image generation requests began failing across the platform, not gradually, all at once. Error messages replaced outputs. Some users saw generic warnings, others saw nothing at all. Internal correspondence shows the cutoff time down to the minute, 09:37 Pacific. That timestamp appears repeatedly. According to official records released as evidence in a later internal dispute, the image system was not down. Servers were active, logs were clean. What changed was access. Let me read this word for word from an internal control memo dated 2 days earlier. Effective immediately, visual synthesis privileges will be limited to approved cohorts pending risk reassessment. Read that again. Limited to approved cohorts. This wasn't announced, it wasn't explained, and most users weren't told they had been removed. The next document in the file is a usage audit. 37 pages, charts, heat maps, user clusters. One chart shows a sharp vertical drop. The caption reads, "Public image generation exposure." Exposure to what? But it gets worse. Attached to that audit is an internal email chain marked confidential. At 22:14, one executive writes, "We are generating more images than we can defend." At 22:19, another responds, "Legal is uncomfortable with ambiguity." And at 22:27, the reply comes back, "Then narrow the pipe." Narrow the pipe. Within hours, image generation stopped for most users on X. Now here's the part no one expected. A separate document released as evidence during a closed arbitration includes contemporaneous notes from a policy meeting, handwritten, messy, real. One line is underlined twice. Public trust risk exceeds engagement benefit. Think about that. According to an insider who later broke silence under oath, the concern wasn't volume, it was unpredictability. The system was producing images that could not be easily categorized, moderated, or explained after the fact, not once, not twice, repeatedly. Another internal report lists tens of thousands of flagged outputs over a 6-week period. The images themselves are not included. Instead, there are placeholders, red boxes, file names, timestamps. Many are marked unrecoverable. Others are labeled manually suppressed. Suppressed. Let me read another excerpt. Visual outputs create permanent artifacts. Text can be revised. Images persist. Read that again. Images persist. This distinction appears throughout the documents. Text is flexible. Images are fixed. And fixed things create liability. Now move to the testimony, because during a closed-door hearing, a senior engineer was asked directly, under oath, did the system pose a technical failure? The answer was immediate. No. Then the follow-up. Then why disable it? The response. Because we could not guarantee containment. Containment of what? The answer appears in a later memo. Secondary distribution. The fear that images generated inside the platform would travel far beyond it. Screenshots, downloads, reposts, context stripped away. According to internal correspondence, that loss of context was described as irreversible risk. Here's the part no one saw coming. A photo archive included in the evidence packet shows whiteboards from multiple meetings. Different rooms, different dates, same words, risk, control, optics. One photo shows a diagram, a funnel narrowing sharply. At the bottom, one word is written, images. That photo was entered as evidence. The person who took it testified that the board was erased immediately after. Now let's talk about timing, because this didn't happen in isolation. Internal calendars show regulatory deadlines approaching. Policy reviews, external pressure points. One entry reads simply, Visual Governance Review. The date is 3 days before the cutoff. Another document references anticipated scrutiny. Scrutiny from where? The document doesn't say, but the redactions are heavy. Entire paragraphs blacked out. Page numbers jump from 12 to 19. Read that again. Missing pages. An insider familiar with the process testified under oath that image generation was seen as the hardest surface to defend. Those are the words used, hardest surface. Why? Because images are immediate, emotional, viral, and once released, they can't be quietly corrected. Now step back, because this isn't about one feature, it's about behavior. When users asked what happened, the public responses were vague. Temporary limitation, ongoing improvements. But internal guidance told staff to avoid specifics. One internal message reads, "Do not confirm permanence." Do not confirm. Why would you need to say that unless permanence was being considered? Another set of internal texts shows concern about precedent. One message reads, "If we roll this back now, we lose leverage later." Leverage over what? Over whom? Now let's talk about approved cohorts, because that phrase matters. According to internal access lists, image generation remained active for a narrow group. Enterprise partners, selected testers, internal teams. The criteria are listed: account age, verification status, usage history. None of this was disclosed publicly. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. During testimony, a policy lead was asked, "Is this equitable?" The answer was careful: it is controlled. Controlled is not the same as equitable. Short sentences matter here. This wasn't a technical failure. It wasn't an accident. It was a policy decision executed quietly. Now move into the analysis, because you have to ask why. If this were anyone else, if this were a small startup, the reaction might have been outrage. But this is a platform that sets the pace. When it moves, others watch. This isn't about one document. It's about behavior. Pattern recognition matters. First, expansion, then concern, then quiet restriction, then silence. Compare scenarios. If text generation posed the same risk, would it have been shut down? No, because text can be contextualized. Images cannot. Legal stakes are significant because images implicate likeness, copyright, defamation, political persuasion, all at once. Political stakes are significant because visual content shapes narratives faster than words ever could. Moral stakes are significant because access matters. Who gets to create? Who gets to see? Who gets shut out without explanation? You have to ask why now. One internal timeline provides a clue. It lists milestones, public launches, internal warnings, external inquiries, all converging in the same quarter. The decision wasn't rushed, it was timed, and timing tells you intent. This isn't about protecting users, it's about protecting control. When power over images concentrates, so does influence. And when influence concentrates, transparency often disappears. We're nearing the end, and I want to be calm about this, because panic helps no one. But awareness matters. What we've seen are official records, internal correspondence, contemporaneous notes, testimony under oath, all pointing in the same direction. Image generation didn't stop because it failed. It stopped because it worked too well, too broadly, and without enough control. Long term, this raises serious questions about access, about creativity, about who decides which tools are too powerful for the public. Think about that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share this, and stay alert. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter, because it does.